Welcome to Just Stories. We hope you enjoy the story. The Swine Showdown, The Pig War of 1906 to 2009, by Just Stories. Chapter 1, The Pig That Started It All. In the summer of 1859, on the remote San Juan Islands in the Pacific Northwest, a small but significant incident took place that would escalate into a full-blown international dispute between the United States and Canada. At the heart of the conflict was a pig, whose unfortunate demise would come to be known as the spark that ignited the Pig War. The pig in question was a black and white boar that belonged to an Irishman named Charles Griffin, who was employed as a shepherd by the Hudson's Bay Company. Like many pigs of the time, the animal was allowed to roam freely and forage for food, which unfortunately led him to the garden of an American settler named Lyman Cutlar. Cutlar had been trying to cultivate a vegetable patch on his small farmstead, but the pig's rooting had been causing damage to his crops. Frustrated and angry, Cutlar warned Griffin to keep the pig off his property. But when the pig once again showed up in Cutlar's garden a few days later, Cutlar took matters into his own hands. According to one account, Cutlar attempted to scare the pig away by firing a warning shot into the air. When this failed, he reportedly aimed and fired at the pig, killing it instantly. Another version of the story claims that Cutlar simply shot the pig without warning, in a fit of frustration and anger. Whatever the true sequence of events, the result was the same. The pig lay dead in Cutlar's garden, and the incident quickly became the talk of the island. Word of the shooting soon reached the nearby British garrison on Vancouver Island, where the authorities were quick to take up the cause of their citizen Griffin. As tensions mounted, both sides began to deploy troops and warships to the San Juan Islands, fearful that the dispute might escalate into a larger conflict. For months, the situation remained tense and uncertain, with diplomats from both the United States and Canada attempting to find a peaceful solution. In the end, it would take several years and the intervention of a neutral third party, Germany, to resolve the dispute. The final outcome of the Pig War was a peaceful settlement in which the San Juan Islands were awarded to the United States, while Canada received compensation for damages incurred during the conflict. Today, the Pig War is remembered as a quirky footnote in the history of the United States and Canada, a curious reminder of the strange and unexpected events that can sometimes shape the course of nations. And while the pig that started it all may have long since passed into the annals of history, its legacy lives on in the colorful stories and legends that have grown up around this unique and memorable conflict. Chapter 2, Negotiations Break Down. After the death of the pig that sparked the Pig War, both the United States and Canada quickly realized that the incident had the potential to escalate into a larger conflict. Diplomats from both sides began meeting to try and resolve the issue before it could get out of hand. At first, negotiations seemed to be progressing well. The British authorities demanded compensation for the pig, while the Americans insisted that they had the right to defend their property from a trespassing animal. But as the talks continued, it became clear that there were deeper issues at stake. One of the main sticking points was the question of who had sovereignty over the San Juan Islands, where the pig had been killed. The United States claimed that the islands were part of the Washington Territory, while Canada argued that they were part of British Columbia. This disagreement was further complicated by the fact that the border between the two countries had not been fully defined in the area. As the negotiations dragged on, tempers began to fray on both sides. The American negotiators accused the British of dragging their feet and stalling for time, while the British accused the Americans of arrogance and aggression. In the end, the talks broke down entirely, with both sides refusing to budge from their positions. With negotiations at an impasse, both the United States and Canada began to prepare for the worst. Troops were mobilized and warships were dispatched to the San Juan Islands, as both sides braced themselves for the possibility of armed conflict. The situation remained tense and uncertain for months, with neither side willing to back down. It was not until the intervention of a neutral third party, Germany, that the dispute was finally resolved. The German Kaiser offered to mediate the dispute between the United States and Canada, and both sides agreed to submit the issue to international arbitration. In the end, the arbitrator ruled in favor of the United States, awarding the San Juan Islands to American sovereignty. While Canada was compensated for damages incurred during the conflict, the decision was a significant blow to Canadian national pride, and the episode would have lasting consequences for relations between the two countries. Despite the eventual peaceful resolution of the conflict, the breakdown of negotiations during the Pig War serves as a reminder of the dangers of brinksmanship and the need for effective communication and diplomacy between nations. Chapter 3: The Battle for the San Juan Islands. As tensions mounted between the United States and Canada during the Pig War, both sides began to deploy troops and warships to the San Juan Islands. The situation quickly escalated into a full-blown military conflict, as soldiers and sailors from both nations engaged in a series of skirmishes and engagements. One of the most notable of these clashes was the Battle of San Juan Island, which took place on July 27, 1859. The battle was fought between American forces led by Captain George E. Pickett and a combined force of British and Canadian troops under the command of Captain Geoffrey Hornby. The battle began when American soldiers landed on San Juan Island and set up camp in defiance of British claims to the territory. The British responded by sending a force of Marines and sailors to confront the Americans, and a tense standoff ensued. As the two sides faced off across a narrow strip of land known as the Pig War Peninsula, tensions began to boil over. Shots were fired, and a small but intense battle broke out. In the end, the Americans emerged victorious, with no casualties on either side. Despite the outcome of the Battle of San Juan Island, the conflict between the United States and Canada continued to simmer. Over the next several months, both sides engaged in a series of skirmishes and provocations, including the cutting down of trees and the building of fortifications. At sea, American and Canadian warships clashed in a series of engagements, including the Battle of Harrow Strait in August of 1859. Although no ships were sunk and casualties were low, the battle served as a reminder of the potential for conflict between the two nations. In the end, it was the intervention of a neutral third party, Germany, that helped to defuse the situation. The German Kaiser offered to mediate the dispute between the United States and Canada, and both sides agreed to submit the issue to international arbitration. The battle for the San Juan Islands serves as a reminder of the dangers of military conflict and the importance of effective diplomacy in resolving disputes between nations. While the Pig War ultimately ended in a peaceful settlement, the legacy of the conflict would continue to shape the relationship between the United States and Canada for years to come. Chapter 4: A Tense Peace. After the resolution of the Pig War, the United States and Canada were left with a fragile peace that was marked by lingering tensions and distrust. While the conflict had been resolved through international arbitration, the underlying issues that had led to the dispute remained unresolved. In the aftermath of the Pig War, both the United States and Canada took steps to prevent a similar conflict from occurring in the future. The two countries agreed to establish a joint military commission to oversee the border between them and to demilitarize the San Juan Islands. Despite these measures, however, tensions between the two nations remained high. American settlers continued to move into disputed areas of the Pacific Northwest, while Canadian authorities remained suspicious of American expansionism and aggression. One of the key factors contributing to this tension was the unresolved issue of the border between the United States and Canada. The Pig War had highlighted the need for a clearly defined and mutually agreed upon border, but this issue remained a contentious one for years to come. In 1871, the United States and Canada signed the Treaty of Washington, which established a process for resolving outstanding issues between the two nations. One of the key provisions of the treaty was the establishment of an independent arbitration panel to resolve the border dispute. After several years of negotiations and legal wrangling, the panel ultimately ruled in favor of the United States, establishing the current border between the two nations. While the decision was a disappointment for Canada, it helped to resolve a major source of tension between the two countries. Despite the resolution of the border dispute, however, the legacy of the Pig War continued to shape the relationship between the United States and Canada. The conflict had highlighted the need for effective diplomacy and communication between nations, as well as the dangers of brinksmanship and militarism. In the years that followed, the United States and Canada would continue to work to strengthen their relationship, with both nations recognizing the importance of cooperation and collaboration in promoting peace and prosperity. Today, the legacy of the Pig War serves as a reminder of the importance of diplomacy and the dangers of conflict between nations. Chapter 5: Legacy and Significance. The Pig War of 1859 to 1871, while a relatively minor conflict in the grand scheme of things, has had a lasting legacy and significance in the history of United States-Canada relations. It highlighted important issues of sovereignty, territorial disputes, and international diplomacy, and helped to shape the border between the two countries. One of the key legacies of the Pig War was the establishment of a peaceful resolution to the conflict through international arbitration. This set an important precedent for the peaceful resolution of conflicts between nations and demonstrated the effectiveness of diplomatic channels in resolving disputes. The Pig War also played a role in shaping the border between the United States and Canada. The conflict drew attention to the need for a clear and mutually agreed-upon border, which ultimately led to the resolution of the border dispute through the Treaty of Washington. In addition, the Pig War helped to shape broader issues of international law and diplomacy. The conflict highlighted the importance of effective communication and diplomacy between nations, and the dangers of militarism and brinksmanship. Today, the legacy of the Pig War continues to be felt in United States-Canada relations. While the two nations have a strong and cooperative relationship, issues of sovereignty and territorial disputes remain ongoing concerns. The Pig War serves as a reminder of the need for effective diplomacy and the importance of peaceful resolution of conflicts. In popular culture, the Pig War has also taken on a certain folklore status, with many myths and legends surrounding the events of the conflict. The story of the pig that started it all, in particular, has become a popular trope in the retelling of the Pig War. Overall, the Pig War may have been a relatively minor conflict, but its legacy and significance endure. It serves as a reminder of the need for effective diplomacy and communication between nations, and the importance of peaceful resolution of conflicts. Thank you for watching our story. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, so you don't miss out on our next video.